What if the person who committed the perfect murder was never smarter than the police, just patient? No chase, no dramatic arrest, no final confession. Just a crime scene that went cold, and a killer who walked away unnoticed. In this documentary, we're going inside the psychology of murderers who were never caught, not because they were geniuses, but because they understood something most people don't. The mind of fear, the mind of chaos, and the moment investigators make their first irreversible mistake. But what police discovered too late changed everything. Every murder investigation has a ticking clock, the first 48 hours. This is when witnesses remember details, when evidence is fresh, when patterns are still visible. But some killers understand this better than the detectives chasing them. They don't rush. They don't panic. They create confusion by choosing locations with no cameras, by leaving behind just enough evidence to mislead, but not enough to convict. And by the time investigators realize what they're dealing with, the trail is already fading. Ask yourself, if you were trying to disappear, what would you do in the first hour? Contrary to popular belief, most uncaught killers aren't masterminds. They're ordinary. They blend in. They follow routines. They don't draw attention. Psychologists call this social camouflage. They understand how people see what they expect to see and ignore everything else. A neighbor, a coworker, a stranger who doesn't look threatening. And that's the point. Because when investigators search for monsters, they often overlook the human standing right in front of them. But what happens when the killer isn't hiding from the police, but hiding inside society? Not every unsolved murder stays unsolved because of missing evidence. Some stay unsolved because people are afraid to talk. Fear of retaliation, fear of being wrong, fear of becoming the next victim. In many cases, someone knows something, a strange comment, a sudden change in behavior, a moment that didn't make sense until it was too late. Families sense it, communities whisper it, but silence protects killers far better than intelligence ever could. And when fear wins, justice never even gets a chance. Sometimes the killer isn't caught because the investigation chose the wrong suspect. Once that happens, everything changes. Evidence is filtered to fit a theory. Witnesses are influenced without realizing it. Other leads quietly disappear. This is known as tunnel vision, and it has derailed countless investigations. While police focus on who they think did it, the real killer watches from a distance, waiting. And by the time the mistake is realized, years or decades have passed. If you're drawn to the psychology behind crimes like this, the why, not just the what, consider subscribing to Casefile Commentary TV, because the most dangerous stories are the ones without endings. Here's a disturbing truth. Some murderers are never caught because they simply stop. They age, they move, they die. Without another crime, there's no pattern to follow, no escalation, no reason for police to look back. The case goes cold, not because it was solved, but because time ran out. And the families left behind are left with only questions. Uncaught killers leave behind more than victims. They leave behind doubt, guilt, and a permanent sense of unfinished justice. Because when there is no arrest, there is no closure. And the most chilling thought of all, somewhere, someone knows the truth and has lived an entire life without ever being held accountable. The perfect crime doesn't exist, but silence, fear, and time, sometimes that's all a killer needs. Which do you think allows more murderers to escape? Intelligence or human nature? Let me know in the comments. And for more true crime documentaries that dig deeper than the headlines, this is Casefile Commentary TV.